It has been an extremely busy week of fast-breaking news on multiple fronts. With us to talk about where all of this leaves us, Jon Meacham, the Pulitzer Prize-winning author and historian. His latest work is entitled The Soul of America, The Battle for Our Better Angels. Jon, thank you for coming on. A gentleman we both know. One, Michael Beschloss, has a very active and educational Twitter feed, and he pointed out the following to us. We'll put it up on the screen. House Judiciary Committee votes to recommend President Nixon's impeachment for obstruction of justice. Today, 1974. He included the next day's New York Times front page treatment. Jon, we don't have to draw any parallels, but the question to you is, how much more real did things get this week?
Then or now, or both?
For today, in current time.
Today. Well, because like Beschloss, who is the Gibbon of Twitter, so sometimes July of '74 seems better. I think it got realer, to use a very elegant literary term. What we forget sometimes in the maelstrom of what we do, in the maelstrom of your broadcast and just the tsunami of information, is that these things do take a good bit of time. From June 17th, 1972 until August 9th, 1974 was 27 months. Joe McCarthy rose and fell from Lincoln's birthday in Wheeling, West Virginia in 1950 until late 1954. Legal time does not work along the same geological spectrum as political time. Political time wants action immediately. We want a decision. We want to finish a news cycle. Legal time takes longer. And I think given, I don't know about you, but if I found out that my lawyer had been taping me and that a special prosecutor of the stature of Robert Mueller had access to those, it would go down as not a good week. Yeah. Well,
one of the great bromides of Watergate is that the heroes of Watergate were Republicans. It's true. If you had to extend that to present day, you venture any names you care to guess?
No, and I'm a little counterintuitive even on that. There were, I think, 7 Republicans on this date in 1974 who voted for Article 1 of impeachment against President Nixon, which was really the most significant one, and I suspect the one that, had it gone to the Senate, would certainly have passed. Bill Cohen was one of those Republicans of Maine. Hamilton Fish of New York. There's this, we've talked about it, there's this legend about how Barry Goldwater and Hugh Scott and John Rhodes went down to the White House to tell Nixon the support wasn't there anymore. But that was August 6th, I think, August 5th. And one of the things, and I think this is worth everybody remembering, is though I'm about politics and law moving differently, things do at some point start to snowball. And what happened for Nixon in July of '74 was the House Judiciary Committee under Rodino, who was doing everything he could to be quite fair about it, and move with some deliberation. Remember, in the middle of the month, this week, we're also celebrating the anniversary of this, the Supreme Court said that Nixon had to turn over the tapes. And of those tapes was the great smoking gun tape, where Nixon actually says, we're going to use the CIA to block the FBI from investigating the break-in. It led to the obstruction charge. And insofar as there is, if not a parallel, at least one of Mark Twain's historical rhymes, it doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes, I do think what we saw this week in Trump land was the beginnings, maybe even the middle, of what an obstruction case might look like. We've always suspected he knew a great deal more about what was going on around him than he's let on, and I think we're beginning to see how an evidentiary trail may actually bring that home to us.
And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why we make it a habit to invite Jon Meacham on our broadcast. Jon, my friend, thank you very much. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, Brian.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.